New accusations today over President Trump's misplaced priorities as his $1.8 billion compensation fund comes under scrutiny by the courts, and construction contractor appears to be his second job.
What I'm concerned about is our current president is falling asleep in cabinet meetings and rage tweeting at 2 a.m. and is distracted by his focus on $1 billion ballroom and a $1.8 billion slush fund not winning the war in Iran.
Joining me now, Ankush Khardori, former federal prosecutor and legal analyst, and here in the studio with me, Hugo Lowell, senior political correspondent at Wired and author of the Inner Loop newsletter. All right, welcome, guys. Let's begin with the $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. The Times reports, citing multiple people familiar with the matter, Trump's personal attorneys like Boris Epshteyn and lawyers in the Justice Department, they're the ones that quickly worked out this deal before Judge Williams was set to scrutinize whether Trump was on both sides of his $10 million lawsuit against the IRS. Yes, it's a federal agency that he ran as president, right? So, Ankush, what are the chances that the judge, now investigating what happened, will find that the court was a victim of fraud? And what happens if she determines that?
You know, this is a really uncharted territory, so this is a very tricky question because, you know, I thought that the judges that put in the brief making this argument and prompting this response from the judge, I thought did a very good job explaining why it was important to sort of get to the bottom of some of these questions. I don't know how far this judge will be able to get for a variety of reasons. I mean, we've already seen, you know, when judges have tried to investigate internal Justice Department machinations at the Trump administration, they often get stonewalled and endlessly appealed. So it's not very clear to me that she'll get very far. We'll see. It's even setting that aside, it also remains unclear whether she has the legal authority to actually put a stop to any kind of disbursement from the fund. Now, this is a litigation that is sort of fast moving and ongoing, so I don't want to prejudge anything, but this is still, these court challenges I still think face a somewhat uphill battle. And I continue to think that the simplest, most direct and efficient way to resolve this is for Congress to step up, do its job, and to say no, pass a law or put something in the immigration funding bill that makes clear that this is not going to be possible.
And to your point, this is quite unprecedented. So, Hugo, the Times reports that the consensus was the lawsuit was a political liability, and if he won, $10 billion of taxpayer money would have been transferred from the Treasury Department straight into Trump's pocket, right? The $1.8 billion fund was considered a solution, the Times reports, to push Mr. Trump away from the politically damaging effort to take money for himself. But is this fund really any less of a political problem for him?
It's not clear that it is. It is going to be a big problem for him on Capitol Hill. You know, we are hearing from House and Senate Republicans already that they are not going to be on board with any sort of anti-weaponization fund. You're seeing actually a bill in the House kind of making its way through, attracting co-sponsors. So this is an actual political issue now for the White House on the Hill, and I think that is why you're seeing the White House have second thoughts about whether we want to go ahead with populating this fund that could be used for all sorts of things that are politically unpopular, including paying off January 6 rioters.
But the fact that Congress is taking it on, Ankush said this is something Congress should take on. Do they do so successfully? Is there an indication that the fervor around this is really building?
I think this is the first time in Trump's second term that I have seen Republicans really come out and be anxious and angry at something that the White House has put forward. I mean, we are kind of in this position because Trump's lawyers decided, oh no, we have this deadline coming up with the judge overseeing his case. We are going to have to explain how the president is able to sue his own government and get a payout. Even that is too bad for us, so we're going to have to find a workaround, and that was why they came up with this anti-weaponization fund. It was purely because they were running up against the deadline, and now this political problem has expanded to include Congress, and Congress is like, this is not something that we want to deal with.
So as Judge Williams considers whether the so-called settlement was a case of deception, Ankush, another federal judge in Virginia has put this fund temporarily on hold. So as she considers a legal challenge to it as well, does this case have a chance? I mean, they're coming at it from two directions, at least right now.
Yes, they are coming from the two directions. Yes, they have chances, but as we keep saying, this is very uncharted territory. Mm-hmm. The machinations were very, very unusual. The plaintiffs are trying to gather more facts around them. My understanding of the opinion or the order in Virginia was sort of an order designed to maintain the status quo while briefing is completed. So that's not terribly surprising. But I just think my sort of general default on this is because for standing reasons and also reasons related to the merits of a challenge, this could be very difficult for plaintiffs to resolve through the courts. The court system, of course, is uncertain. There are appeals. It can take time. It could be years of litigation. I don't think, this is the sort of thing that merits that. As Hugo said, this does seem to be unique insofar as it has generated some Republican opposition. It would just be very, very simple for Congress to pass a law shutting this thing down decisively, which I think is the appropriate thing to do. There should be $0 in that fund. Nothing should be dispersed.
And very quickly, if Congress doesn't do that, and yet, as you say, there's years of litigation about that, does that prevent the fund from being created in the first place?
So that depends on the nature of the orders that are halting it in the meantime. So the one right now, says no disbursements for the moment, pending this briefing. But I don't know that the judges are going to be able to hold an order like that all the way through. I mean, not to go too far down in the weeds, of course, we've seen plenty of decisions where lower courts have issued orders and then Supreme Court has lifted those stays in those orders. So we can't assume that anything that moves through the courts is going to reach a certain outcome or that it will be stable or hold that the outcome will be the same the whole time.
So, Hugo, to your point that this has really rattled a lot of Republicans, more so than what you've seen in the past during this particular term. It's done so much that Senate Republicans have ditched plans to support Trump's, that $70 billion immigration crackdown. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump's top aides have discussed whether he should kill the fund in exchange for getting the immigration enforcement funding passed. That's according to people familiar with the matter. Do you see that happen? And would it really end the so-called that wounded bear caucus from disrupting his political agenda?
Yeah, the so-called Wounded Bear Caucus is turning out to be a real thing now. And the answer to your question is very fluid, right? Because there's several agenda items. There's the weaponization fund. There is the $1 billion ballroom security package that the White House sees as a must-pass bill and are really leaning on Republicans to pass that. And then we have the immigration package as well. And so I think what you will see is the White House try and negotiate with Congress which funding measures they can get passed and what kind of horse trading they can do. But this is the problem now of Trump's own making, which is he didn't have to endorse Ken Paxton in the Texas primary, and now you have John Cornyn, who is upset with the White House and posted on social media recently.
Nothing to lose.
Right. Yep. And him and Cassidy are making it very clear that they are against the White House's top legislative priorities, and that is the problem with having a narrow Senate majority. In the 53-47 Senate, you have two disaffected Republicans who start voting with Democrats alongside Cassidy and Cornyn, and suddenly the math starts looking very different, and the White House sees uphill struggles to pass this legislation.
Okay. To be continued for sure. Hugo and Koush, guys, thank you both so much.